Here's your early look at the waiver wire for week 4. I'm Jim Coventry of RotoWire. Let's start out with the quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers had a pair of slow games to start the season. Looked razor sharp on Thursday Night Football. Unbelievable the ball placement, buying time. Just looked like vintage Aaron Rodgers. 281 yards, couple scores. Looks like a solid streaming option going forward. Maybe a little more than that. All right, Sam Darnold, how do you ignore 10 touchdowns in 3 games? It's very unlikely that's a sustainable pace to keep. But that said, Justin Jefferson's there. Jordan Addison's coming back. Jalen Nailor's a player. Offensive line is good. Darnold is probably going to be more of a streamer, but he's shown 3 good games. Roll with him while you can. Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams was awful in the first 2 games. The interior Bears offensive line couldn't block, no protection. He had a cake matchup against the Colts. Very little pressure, very little coverage. Caleb Williams goes off 363 yards, 2 touchdowns, some garbage time. So Williams, there's easier matchups, streaming option. It's going to take him a while. He might get better as the season goes on, but he is worth a hold in that case because if he does get better and figure things out, look out. Andy Dalton instantly put life into that Panthers offense. Over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Raiders. Look, the honeymoon's going to probably end quickly, but right now, Dalton's a matchup option. He has some weapons. Dionte Johnson had an immediate click with Dalton. Talk about him later. But Dalton's a professional quarterback. The tackles are decent, offensive tackles. Enough receiving work. The defense will be bad. They'll have to throw. Yeah, stream Dalton. All right, emergency. Only in 2 quarterback leagues, and if you're desperate, Skylar Thompson suffered a chest injury. Tim Boyle took over. I know he's terrible. We saw him with the Jets last year. But again, any quarterback with a pulse in 2 quarterback leagues, you got to look at. So if that's the case, you can look at Tim Boyle. And if you're desperate and you're stuck, you might need to start him. Drake Maye. I don't know if he's going to play anytime soon, but he did finish the Thursday blowout loss against the Jets. And he ran. He ran for like 12 yards. Wasn't much, but he played limited time. I don't know if they put him in behind the terrible offensive line, but like we said, quarterbacks, super flex league, 2 quarterback leagues, they have value. It's possible they put Maye out there earlier than expected. Again, it could be dangerous behind that line, but again, we got to take a look. Running backs. Rico Dowdle does appear to have passed Ezekiel Elliott on the Cowboys depth chart last week and this week. Now, there's not much upside. Dallas offense is not running the ball well, but Dowdle's out there. And volume is volume. So if he's going to get double-digit touches in most games, that's fantasy value, especially with the bye weeks coming and injuries. So see it that way. Chubba Hubbard, much better situation with Andy Dalton. The defenses were not quite able to load everything up like they did in prior weeks. So Hubbard looked really good as a lead running back. Put a big yardage in this one. Now, Jonathan Brooks is probably getting close to a return from that ACL injury on the PUP list. 4 games, he'll be out. But that said, while Hubbard's in there, he is back to having value because the offense is healthier. Bucky Irving, 3rd game in a row. He outproduces Rachaad White as a runner, not as a receiver, of course. But hey, look, Bucky Irving's averaging 10 touches per game. Possible those rushing attempts keep going up because Rachaad White simply cannot run as an interior runner. Irving has shown through 3 games he can. White's going to be the receiver. Irving's still getting some targets, but Bucky Irving has real fantasy value right now. Roschon Johnson. All right, yeah, Roschon Johnson. We'll say it. All right, he didn't see the field the first 2 games of the year. Basically healthy scratch. Bears want nothing to do with him. Travis Homer sits this one out. DeAndre Swift is horrible. Khalil Herbert's horrible. Roschon Johnson had 12 touches, was the only effective Chicago running back against the Colts. It's possible he gets a rotational job in this backfield because it's so bad. And again, for running backs, volume, you get something, you have value. Ty Chandler. So Ty Chandler with Aaron Jones in the backfield in Minnesota, 9 touches per game. Now, the strong numbers haven't been there, of course. But again, it's just volume play. You're going to be desperate for help for bye weeks. If Aaron Jones were to miss time, Ty Chandler is the clear step-in option. Isaac Guerendo of the 49ers. He did see work while this game was competitive throughout against the Rams, and Jordan Mason wasn't dominant in this game. He didn't have that big game. 2 big games, 3rd one, not so great. Guerendo played, didn't look fantastic, but maybe the doors opened for Guerendo to get a little work. He's a stash. He might not be there long. We don't know McCaffrey's status, if he's going to come in or out. But if Mason starts to slow down a little bit and Guerendo gets in, remember, Guerendo came out of college, 4th-round draft pick. 49ers did invest. They have a bad history with them. But that said, take a look. Emanuel Wilson of the Green Bay Packers. Marshawn Lloyd's on the IR at least a couple more weeks out with an ankle. Josh Jacobs is certainly playing great. Didn't have great numbers in week 3, but we saw Emanuel Wilson, 14 touches, turns into 85 yards and a touchdown. He won't do that every week, but he may have earned a little more work in his backfield. And with Jordan Love coming back, defenses will have to lighten up the box a little bit. So again, if you're desperate, Wilson could be worth a look. All right, deep. Tyler Badie. He gets 70 yards on 9 carries. Now, Javonte Williams did nothing. Jaleel McLaughlin scored a touchdown but did nothing. Badie comes in, has a few carries, a couple bigger runs. Not going to continue. But again, super deep league, super desperate. He's probably not going to do much of anything, but he might get some touches in a rotational role. Again, that's mega deep league. Wide receivers. Deandre Hopkins, first 2 games, limited snaps, catch 1 pass in each game, didn't do anything. Well, looks like he's back and healthy because he was the only useful receiver for the Titans in the game against the Packers. 73 yards and a touchdown. Look, Hopkins, he's healthy. He could be a wide receiver 3 in PPR leagues. It was a hit to Calvin Ridley for sure, but DeAndre Hopkins, who would I rather throw to in tight coverage? To me, it's DeAndre Hopkins, my opinion. Dionte Johnson, maybe somebody dropped him because of Bryce Young. It's possible. Not in many leagues, but maybe. And if that happened, well, Andy Dalton, instant match. Johnson should see regular targets. Big game against the Raiders. And that's, like I said, long shot. He's available. But if he is, okay, definitely roster Dionte Johnson. Jauan Jennings had a massive performance. He's the only player on the 49ers who really had a big game against the Rams. Now, the 49ers will be getting skilled players back at some point. But look, if they're going to use Jennings is a great blocker, but he's a talented receiver. So if they have to go to him for a while, he is very capable of making plays. So you might need him for a week or 2. So again, take a look at that. Odunze of the Bears. If somehow he was dropped again after that slow start, the sprained MCL, well, he broke out against the Colts. We said it with Caleb Williams. If the Bears have a cake matchup, then you know what? You consider putting him in. 112 yards and a touchdown. Big game for Odunze. Now, when the matchups are tough and Caleb Williams is under pressure, Odunze probably doesn't get much done. But again, the rookie's real. He's super talented. All right, just a reminder about the Packers receivers, all of them. Again, if somebody got cute when Jordan Love was out, expecting 4 weeks, we know he's practiced. If any of them are on the waiver wire, even Dontavian Wicks, treat them as you would have during the fantasy draft season. If they're on waivers and you value them where you had them, value them back to their normal cost, and that's where they should top out. Quentin Johnston. Didn't see much action. The Chargers threw fewer than 20 passes. Justin Herbert's hurt, but Johnson caught an early touchdown. So there's that. So again, 3 touchdowns in 2 weeks. Now Justin Herbert's maybe going to be compromised for a while. So we got to be careful about that. But again, Johnson appears to be maybe the only viable receiver in this offense right now. McConkey's doing a little bit, but Johnson's finding the end zone. That's pretty valuable. Wan'dale Robinson, keep bringing him up. He's averaging 8 targets, PPR leagues, solid weekly floor. Even the week he didn't get it done, he had a touchdown. So that, Wan'dale Robinson, PPR leagues, should be rostered. Jalen Tolbert, big game in week 2. Gets 42 yards and a touchdown against the Ravens, mostly in garbage time. Look, Dallas is going to pass a ton, so roll with him. Michael Wilson comes up big against the Lions. 8 catches, 64 yards, did very little in the first 2 weeks, did score a touchdown. But look, Cardinals are going to trail. Wilson is a very good receiver. Demario Douglas, 2 basically duds, goes off against the Jets. We know he's a full-time slot receiver. Maybe Jacoby Brissett will lean on him, but Demario Douglas is very talented. PPR league special. Tutu Atwell of the Rams. Atwell, last year, early in the season, downfield threat, cashed in regularly. Well, you got Kupp out, you got Nakua out. Guess who shows up against 49ers? Atwell, 93 yards. So there you have it. Tutu Atwell, look at him. He could be useful week to week. Xavier Legette comes into a situation with Andy Dalton taking over. Couple catches. Just keep him on the radar because if they spent a high draft picking him, if he's talented, Dalton could get something out of him. Jalen Nailor of the Vikings. Touchdowns at 3 straight games. Now, not a lot of volume, and Jordan Addison should be back soon, and Nailor might take a hit. But again, Nailor is going to earn some looks. Lil'Jordan Humphrey, we know they love the slot in Denver, and they deactivated Devon Vele. Humphrey's been productive 2 weeks in a row. You can take a look at that. Over in Las Vegas, I wouldn't put a lot of stock in the Tre Tucker game, the 96 yards and a touchdown, because both Devontae Adams and Michael Mayer did very little. And again, with Jacoby Myers in the mix, Tucker is the number 4, and I don't see that bearing a lot of fruit. But all that said, you take a look at him in case you're in a deep league and You might need him on occasion, throw him in. Tight ends, look, Tyler Conklin broke out 5 for 93 after 2 duds. It's possible if this offense gets rolling, he's involved. And then Cole Kmet. I don't think week to week you can count on him, but against the Colts, 97 yards and a touchdown. We know he's talented. So if you need a tight end, you need to stream, consider Cole Kmet.